I'm really glad you could join us today. Today's parable is the parable of the talents. Jesus told this parable to explain a little bit more about the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is like a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and gave them his money to look after while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last. He wasn't being mean by only giving 1 bag of silver to the last servant. He gave money to the one who had the ability to use it. The one who had the ability to use it needed more so that he could use it well. And those that had less ability, he gave less because they would need less. The man then left on his long trip. The servant who received 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earned 5 more bags of silver. The servant with 2 bags of silver also worked very hard and earned 2 more bags of silver. But guess what the servant did who received 1 bag of silver? He just dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the servant's master returned from his long trip and called his servants together, and so they could tell him how they had used his money. The servant who had been given 5 bags of silver from his master came forward with 5 more bags of silver and said, "Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest. I have earned 5 more bags of silver." Well, the master was really happy, and he was full of praise for the servant. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Come, let's celebrate together." The servant who had been given 2 bags of silver came forward and said, "Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 2 more." The master again was happy. He said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Come, let's celebrate together." Then the servant who had been given 1 bag of silver came and said, "Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you did not cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the ground. Look, I have kept it safe. Here is your money back." But the master replied, "You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I did not plant and gathered crops I did not cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have had some interest on it." Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one who had 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance." That means they're going to have lots and lots and lots. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now take this servant and separate him from all that is good. He will be punished. So let's think about this. In this parable that Jesus told, who do you think the master was who went on a long trip? That's right, he represents God. Who do you think the servants represent? Correct, that's us, people who live in the world. And what do you think the bags of silver represent? Well, yes, the bags of silver are skills, abilities that people have, abilities that God has given to human beings. They are things that we probably can do well. God has given different people all different kinds of talents. All of these talents that God has given us are meant to draw attention to God and show just how good and great God is. Well, let's think about it. What did the first servant do with his 5 talents that the master had given him? Well, he invested it. He put it to work and he doubled his master's money. He earned 5 more bags of silver. He had 5 more than he set off with. What did the servant do who had 2 talents? Well, he also doubled what he had, and he had 2 more bags of silver for his master when he returned. And let's think about the last servant, the third servant. Well, he just dug a hole and hid his master's money in the ground, and the master was very, very disappointed. Whatever God has given us, God expects us to use it for good. We shouldn't hide our abilities or our talents away somewhere. We shouldn't be lazy like the last servant in our parable who just hid the money in the ground. We should use what God has given us to show just how good and how fantastic God really is. I've just got to get rid of this money that my master gave me. I think I'll hide it under these flags until he gets back.
Hey mate, what are you doing?
Shh, it's a secret.
What?
Now, don't be telling anybody.
What are you hiding, mate?
Nothing, but don't tell anybody.
Haha, you're a nutter, you lad.